afternoon, everyone. This is Kasumi and Sarah, and welcome back to our podcast, What's New in the News, on Tuesday afternoon.
This week's topic will be on speed versus accuracy in the news. So we want to hear from you guys. What do you think is more important? Send us a text on 1300 6784.
Well, I don't know about you, Kasumi, but personally, I think that in today's society, we expect everything so instantaneously, and that's how we expect our news too. I mean, does anyone really want to hear breaking news 3 hours later? By then, the fire's out, the baby's born, and we've all moved on to the next royal wedding.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, do we want to receive our news quickly, or do we want it to be accurate? Let's say we hear a rumour that Kim Kardashian is assaulted by a pigeon. No one else has reported the news. We get them first because we want to. Next minute we find out it's not true and we lose our credibility and get smacked in the face with a defamation suit.
A defamation suit from a pigeon? That I'd like to see.
So we just got a text from Lucy in Brisbane. Though Lucy says, I think one of the main factors that drives journalism is speed. If journalists weren't quick when writing the news by the time the story is published, it may have moved on or developed. I think that's a good point Lucy's made, because if journalists did take their time in writing their stories, by the time another story comes out, it would be old news, or the story could have extended, or more things could have happened. And we do want to keep people who read the news really updated, especially in times of disasters.
I think that's a really good point you've made there. I mean, look at the New South Wales fires. We're constantly getting new news on what's happening, and the people living in those areas, they really rely on that to know what to do, what's happening around them. All right, so Ben from Innisfil says that he believes each story is unique with different challenges. But in this digital era, accuracy just isn't good enough if media organisations want to remain relevant to their audiences. Kasumi, what do you think?
We've reached the digital age of journalism, so the news can be delivered to our audiences really quickly now. And the fact is, even if mistakes are made, you can go back and edit the news online and change little snippets. If it was printed, they had a lot more time to do their news, and they couldn't go back and change something, and that could be a bit more scandalous.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And the other thing is, with us moving to the digital era in news reporting, I think it's become a lot more evident that there are citizen journalists out there which we are now having to compete with.
That's true.
So we're not competing between news organisations anymore. We've moved on to competing with citizen journalists who now have these platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, which they're able to communicate with audiences with. So if we want to remain relevant as journalists, we need to get that news out there quicker than them.
That's so true, because nowadays, pretty much anyone can be a journalist, because citizen journalists are becoming pretty dominant. You have vloggers out there, online blogs. There's more and more medias coming out. People tweet stuff.
I definitely agree there. So, Ben, I think you've made a very valid point on this one.
Here's another one from Rachel from North Brisbane. He thinks accuracy is more important. She says, the journalist's job is to provide the truth, and often speed is achieved at the detriment of basic fact-checking. Soon we won't know what's real in the news and what's a rumour. I think that's a good point from Rachel. I'm trying to remember what happened, but I think it was a Boston Marathon bombing a while ago, and there was lots of journalists reporting on the case, but journalists were trying so hard to get out the news quickly about it that they didn't do their fact-checking, which turned out to be quite a scandal. Can you remember that, Sarah?
Yeah, of course. So it was the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. I believe what happened was a whole lot of news organisations were, of course, on the air and reporting at the scene. But it appeared that a lot of them were actually relying on their Twitter feeds. And of course, the problem with this is there can be facts on there that are, of course, wrong. So I can't remember who, I'm pretty sure it was the New York Post, actually, ended up putting up photos of the suspects of the bombing, and they turned out to be wrong. So in that case, I guess accuracy is far more important than speed, and perhaps technology isn't always our friend when it comes to reporting on breaking news. Thanks very much to all our listeners who texted in with their opinions, and feel free to shoot us a message if you have anything else to add or a different opinion. Kasumi, so what is your opinion? Do you think accuracy is more important than speed?
Well, actually, I have a little funny snippet for our listeners. A while back, before the actual movie of Finding Dory came out, there was a little issue on the Today Show where Richard Wilkins didn't fact check before announcing the new Finding Dory movie, and this was a little bit after April Fool's, so he wasn't completely sure whether the news was true or not. I think this was back in 2015 or 2014 even. I'll just play it for you guys.
Actually, the entire sequel is about Dory. The name of the movie is called Finding Dory, and that is the name of the movie. That's it.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Is that the
What?
is that for real?
I think so, yeah. Finding Dory said
You don't
to...
know for certain, though, do you?
Pixar have announced it.
It wasn't an April Fool's gag,
No,
was
it
it?
wasn't April Fool's. April the 2nd they did it over there. It's Finding Dory.
You're not sure, though, are you?
Pixar have announced it on their site.
It's official.
You're
It's
doubting
official.
your story.
It's
aren't you?
official. Finding Dory will hit cinemas in 2015.
Well, that was Carl Stefanovic and Richard Wilkins on the Today Show. It's just an example to show when journalists aren't sure they're giving the correct news.
And I guess like when you transfer that into a bigger situation, a more important situation than just a movie release, that can be really detrimental to the audience.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's definitely a very valid point. But at the same time, I think speed is rewarded by web traffic. If you're the first to provide a story, your story will likely have a far larger audience than a story produced 3 hours later. I think that given our ability to attain information instantaneously, shouldn't speed be one of the most important elements when it comes to producing a news story?
When you think about it, with many news platforms appearing online, it's become much easier to edit content after publication. So I think as long as the majority of information is accurate and the sources are reliable, a few mistakes aren't going to tarnish the reputation of an article reporting breaking news.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week with another fun podcast. This is What's New in the News on a Tuesday afternoon.